So what if I told you that the secret to fading a really nasty bruise on your face after a cosmetic procedure and the trick to curing those painfully heavy swollen legs you get after a 12-hour shift at work actually rely on the exact same underlying biological plumbing?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive when you put it like that.
Right.
Because,
It's about
most of us compartmentalize our bodies. We think face issues go in one bucket and leg issues go in another.
yeah, exactly.
But the vascular system really doesn't care about our arbitrary category.
Well, which is exactly why we are diving into this today. Welcome to today's deep dive. If you've ever stood in a skincare aisle, just completely paralyzed by rows of glass dropper bottles and medicinal tubes, well, it's for you.
Oh, it can be so overwhelming.
It really is. The ingredient lists read like an advanced organic chemistry final. But today we have a stack of sources that maps highly specific products directly to distinct biological skin concerns. We're skipping the marketing fluff entirely.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, we aren't going to talk about miracle glows or youthful vitality or any of that. We are focusing strictly on matching the chemical solution to the biological problem. We're translating the jargon so you know exactly what to use, when to use it, and why it actually works.
And honestly, that is the only way to navigate the modern skincare market. When you actually understand the why behind a specific active ingredient, you just stop falling for celebrity hype.
Totally. You start treating your skin like the complex organ it actually is.
Exactly.
So, let's jump right into the baseline. We all kind of know the concept of the skin barrier, right? It's the protective roof over the house. But for someone who's a beginner, biologically, what is actually happening when that roof caves in?
Well, to stick with your house analogy, if your skin cells are the bricks, then the natural lipids, so the ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids, are the mortar holding everything together.
Okay, the mortar.
Right. And that mortar has two critical jobs. It locks the water inside your body so your cells don't dehydrate, and it forms an impenetrable shield against external invaders like bacteria, microscopic pollution, harsh chemicals.
So when that breaks down, what happens?
When that lipid matrix is compromised, moisture just evaporates straight out of your skin and irritants flood right in. That's why it feels red, sensitive, and horribly dry.
Okay, so the goal isn't just to, throw water at the skin. It's to literally rebuild the mortar.
Precisely.
And the sources highlight Donga D-panthenol ointment for this exact baseline repair. The core ingredient is dexpanthenol, which is a precursor to provitamin B5.
Yeah, it's a fantastic ingredient.
But what I found incredibly interesting in the documentation wasn't just the active ingredient, but the complete absence of steroids and preservatives. Why is omitting those things so critical when the lipid barrier is broken?
Because, frankly, your skin's defense system is offline. When your barrier is intact, it can easily handle a standard preservative in a daily lotion.
Right, it just bounces off.
Exactly. But when that mortar is gone, applying harsh preservatives or certain active steroids is like throwing gasoline on a smoldering fire. The nerve endings are exposed. Yeah, and those chemicals trigger a massive inflammatory response. But dexpanthenol bypasses that entirely.
How so?
Once it absorbs into the compromised skin, it converts to vitamin B5, and that actively stimulates the production of your natural lipids, so it doesn't just sit on top of the skin, it literally manufactures new mortar.
Wow. And the sources specifically call out extreme cases for this ointment. We were talking severe, cracking dryness, or the kind of raw sensitivity you get during brutal winter windburns, even newborn diaper rash.
Which really underscores the gentle biological compatibility of the formula.
Yeah, the user consensus is to apply it in a very thick layer right before bed. That lets the B5 conversion happen overnight, calming the severe redness by morning.
It basically acts as a total reset button for trauma.
But what if your barrier isn't quite at the newborn diaper rash stage of emergency? Like, say you want a repair cream that also addresses elasticity. The sources point to Dong Cook's Centellian 24 Medeka Cream Time Reverse Zero.
Oh, right. This one is more of a multitasker.
Yeah, so if the D-panthenol is the emergency tarp for a blown-off roof, the Medeka cream is rebuilding the roof while simultaneously upgrading the insulation inside the walls.
I love that analogy.
The key ingredient here is Teca, derived from Centella asiatica, which, legendary for wound healing. But they've paired it with encapsulated collagen and elastin. Let me just pause on that word.
Encapsulated.
Yeah, encapsulated. It's plastered on every high-end skincare box right now.
Uh,
Is this just a really effective marketing buzzword, or does encapsulation actually change the physics of the cream?
Oh, it fundamentally changes the physics of the delivery. See, collagen and elastin are massive molecules.
Okay.
If you just smear raw collagen on your face, it's like trying to push a basketball through a chain link fence.
Oh.
Yeah, it just sits on the surface of your skin. It hydrates the top layer, sure, but it does absolutely nothing for your structural elasticity deep down.
So what does encapsulation do?
By encapsulating them, scientists place these large molecules inside microscopic lipid-based delivery vehicles. These vehicles mimic the skin's own lipid structure.
Ah, so it tricks the skin.
Exactly. It allows them to seamlessly pass through the outer barrier, travel deep into the dermis, and then dissolve. That releases the collagen right where it can actually be utilized.
That makes complete sense. You're smuggling the materials past the gate guards.
Right.
And the feedback in the sources backs up that deep delivery mechanism. Users specifically note that when their skin texture is chronically rough, slathering this on plumps the tissue from the inside out. Like, to such a degree that makeup applies completely flawlessly the next morning.
Because you're repairing the outer mortar with the TECA while pumping structural scaffolding into the deeper layers with the encapsulated proteins.
So the foundation is secured. But moving on to our next major concern. Sometimes you have a perfectly sealed roof and a fire breaks out inside the house anyway.
Ah, acne.
Yes, acne. For a long time, the mainstream advice was just to buy whatever acid spot treatment was trending and nuke the entire face.
Which is a terrible idea.
Right. The sources are adamant that treating all acne the exact same way is a recipe for chemical burns and more breakouts. We had to separate the tiny, bumpy whiteheads from the massive, painful cystic acne.
Treating them as the same condition is a fundamental misunderstanding of the biology.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So those tiny, rough, bumpy whiteheads that cluster on the forehead or the chin, they're non-inflammatory. They are essentially a biological traffic jam.
A traffic jam.
Yeah. The sebaceous glands produce too much oil, dead skin cells didn't shed properly, and the two mix together to form a hard plug inside the pore. There's no infection, it's just a blockage.
Right, just a physical blockage.
But a deep, red, throbbing, cystic bump. That is not a traffic jam. That is a full-blown biological fire. The trapped oil became a feeding ground for bacteria. Your immune system detected the bacterial overgrowth and rushed white blood cells to the scene. That causes massive inflammation, swelling, and pain deep underneath the surface.
So let's solve the traffic jam first. The sources highlight Donga Clean Gel for the small, bumpy whiteheads. The active ingredient is 2% BHA, which is salicylic acid.
Yes.
We know BHA is an exfoliating acid. But mechanically, why does it work on a plugged pore when something like an alpha-hydroxy acid might not?
Well, the secret weapon of DHA is that it is lipophilic, meaning it is entirely oil-soluble.
Okay, oil-soluble.
Most exfoliating acids are water-soluble. They just sit on the surface of the skin and dissolve the glue holding dead cells together. But BHA can actually cut straight through the oil.
Oh, that's incredibly useful.
It really is. It travels down the shaft of the pore, bypasses the sebum, and gently melts the structural integrity of that trapped plug from the inside out.
It's chemically smoothing the road so the traffic can flow again. But let me push back here. If BHA cuts through oil and dissolves dead skin, what happens if I take that 2% BHA and slather it all over a massive, open, swollen, cystic pimple?
You'll create a total disaster.
Really?
Yes. You will dry out and chemically burn the healthy surface tissue, causing it to flake and peel. And you'll be doing absolutely nothing to stop the bacterial infection raging deep down in the follicle.
Oh, so the fire just keeps burning underneath a layer of damaged, peeling skin.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the targeted solution for those deep fires. Dong A Achinon Cream. The ingredient list for this one sounds like it belongs behind a pharmacy counter. We're looking at ibuprofen picanol and isopropylmethylphenol.
Right. So remember that a cystic blemish is primarily an immune response.
Okay.
Ibuprofen picanol is a topical anti-inflammatory. It penetrates the skin and essentially tells your immune system to call off the panic. It forces the local blood vessels to constrict and the white blood cells to stand down.
Which rapidly takes away the red, throbbing swelling, I assume.
Exactly. And at the exact same time, the isopropylmethylphenol acts as a targeted antibacterial agent. It infiltrates the pore to break down the cell walls of the bacteria that caused the issue in the first place.
So you are sending in a chemical fire blanket to smother the flames and an antibacterial SWAT team to clear out the instigator.
That's a great way to picture it.
And the usage tip from the sources is critical here. You don't rub this in like a daily moisturizer. You take a thick dollop and place it directly over the hard red nodule right before you go to sleep.
Right. It creates a concentrated, localized environment. And the documentation notes that the intense inflammation is significantly flattened by morning.
Matching the exact mechanism to the biological reality of the blemish. Okay, so once the acne fire is completely out, or maybe you've just come out of a heavy cosmetic laser treatment at the dermatologist, you are left with the charred remains.
The tissue is damaged.
Right. How do we stop the scarring process before a permanent mark forms?
You know, this is the missing link in most skincare routines. People aggressively attack the breakout, but they leave the compromised tissue to fend for itself, which is exactly how you end up with pitted scars and dark hyperpigmentation.
To rebuild that tissue, the sources bring up Daewon EGF Sisal ointment. The focal point here is epidermal growth factor, or EGF.
Yes, EGS.
Conceptually, I understand that a growth factor makes things grow. But on a cellular level, how does it rewrite the healing timeline of a freshly popped pimple or an open scratch?
Think of growth factors as biological text messages.
Text messages.
Yeah, when you rupture the skin barrier by popping a blemish or getting a laser treatment, your body slowly begins the process of generating new cells. When you apply topical EGF, you are flooding the site with signaling proteins.
Okay, what do they signal?
They bind to the receptors on your skin cells and send a massive, localized command to multiply and repair the breach immediately. It dramatically accelerates the cellular turnover rate at the wound site.
So the new skin forms fast enough to prevent a scar from setting in. But here's the detail from the sources that really caught my eye. This ointment is highly effective for wound repair, but it is completely free of antibiotics. Why is an antibiotic-free healing option such a massive win for someone who deals with chronic breakouts?
Because it addresses a silent epidemic in dermatology, which is localized antibiotic resistance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you constantly smear over-the-counter antibiotic creams on every single popped pimple, minor scratch, or cuticle tear, the bacteria living on your facial microbiome will eventually mutate. They become highly resistant to those medications.
Meaning when you eventually get a severe, painful staph infection on your face, the standard topical antibiotics simply won't work.
Precisely. By utilizing a signaling protein like EGF to accelerate the body's own mechanical healing process, you completely bypass the need for antibiotics on minor cosmetic wounds. You preserve your microbiome sensitivity for when you actually need it.
That is a brilliant long-term strategy. Okay, the next repair product listed is Dr. Rejual Advanced PDRN Rejuvenating Cream. The star ingredient is PDRN, and the documentation clearly states it is highly concentrated and salmon-derived.
Yes, salmon-derived.
I have to call a timeout here. I mean, I understand botanical extracts, but how on earth does extracting DNA from a fish translate to repairing human facial tissue?
I know. It sounds like science fiction, but it is a massive staple in regenerative medicine.
Really?
Yeah. PDRN stands for polydeoxyribonucleotide. It is extracted specifically from the reproductive cells of salmon because, remarkably, its base pair structure is virtually identical to human DNA.
Wait, so it doesn't trigger an immune rejection response?
Not at all.
So what does it actually do when it hits the skin?
It acts as literal biological scaffolding. When your skin is severely traumatized, PDRN provides the exact nucleotide building blocks your fibroblasts need to synthesize new collagen and repair the dermal matrix.
So it doesn't just hydrate, it actually reconstructs the deep inner elasticity of the tissue.
Exactly.
The sources mentioned this is the holy grail for post-dermatology care. If you have ever had an aggressive chemical peel or a Fraxel laser treatment, you know that horrifying sensation where your face feels incredibly red, bone dry, and so tight that you're terrified. Your skin will literally crack if you smile.
Oh, that tightness is extreme transepidermal water loss. The laser intentionally vaporized your lipid barrier to force a healing response.
So applying this salmon-derived PDRN scaffolding while the skin is in that state of controlled trauma rapidly rebuilds the inner density. It cures that painful inner tightness and brings the barrier back online faster than the body could do on its own.
You're basically taking the skin from a state of acute vulnerability directly into an accelerated state of regeneration.
Okay, the structure is sound, the fires are extinguished, the wounds are closed. But we still have the aesthetic fallout, right? We are left with subtle texture issues and stubborn pigmentation.
The dark spots.
Yes, the melasma patches and the freckles that just never seem to fade. We've got Dong, a melatonin cream up next, featuring 2% hydroquinone. To understand this, let's set up a metaphor. If UV rays are the computer pressing print on dark spots, how do we unplug the printer?
Well, we have to target the specific enzyme inside the melanocyte cell. So melanin is the pigment that gives our skin its color, right?
Right.
When UV light hits the skin or when hormones fluctuate, your pigment-producing cells can go into overdrive. They create concentrated pools of excess melanin. That is your dark spot.
Okay.
The enzyme required to manufacture that melanin is called tyrosinase.
So hydroquinone goes in and disables that specific enzyme.
Exactly. Hydroquinone doesn't just bleach the existing skin on the surface. It penetrates the cell and fundamentally halts the tyrosinase enzyme from functioning.
It cuts the power cord to the printer.
You got it. The overproduction of pigment stops, and as your skin naturally sheds its old layers, the dark spot gradually disappears.
But I need to emphasize this. The sources are incredibly strict about the application protocols for this stuff. This is an OTC medication, not an all-over brightening serum. You do not pump this into your hands and rub it all over your face and neck.
Definitely not.
Because if it halts pigment production, applying it to normal, healthy skin is going to cause some serious issues, right?
Oh, absolutely. You will create a reverse halo effect where the normal skin surrounding the dark spot aggressively lightens, which actually makes the original dark spot look even more pronounced by contrast.
That sounds awful.
It is. It must be used as a precision tool. You take a tiny amount, apply it exclusively to the localized hyperpigmentation just once a day, strictly before bed, as the final step in your routine.
Precision chemistry. Okay, now what about refining the physical texture of the skin? The sources introduced Celemax, the Vita-A retinol shot tightening booster. Notice the A. We all know retinol with an O, but what is stabilized retinol doing here?
It all comes down to the conversion process. For your skin to utilize vitamin A, it has to be converted into retinoic acid. Retinol requires 2 metabolic conversion steps inside the skin. But retinol with an A only requires 1.
Oh, so it's faster.
It is a direct precursor, making it significantly faster and more potent at accelerating the cellular turnover cycle.
Speeding up the assembly line. As we get older, dead cells cling to the surface longer, which is why skin looks dull. But the source brings up a fascinating structural symptom of this aging process. They call it vertically sagging pores.
Yes.
Think about a rubber band. When it's new, it's a tight, perfect little circle. But as it loses elasticity over time, gravity pulls it downward, and that tight circle stretches into a long vertical oval. Pores do the exact same thing. It's not that they are clogged with oil. It's that the dermal matrix around them has lost its firmness.
That rubber band analogy perfectly illustrates dermal thinning. And because the retinol forces the skin to rapidly shed the old surface and aggressively stimulates fresh collagen production deep in the dermis, it thickens the tissue walls.
So fixing the structure.
Right. It acts as a structural tightening booster, reinforcing the edges of that pore and snapping the rubber band back into a tighter, firmer circle.
Which brings us to the final and, frankly, most surprising part of our sources. We've spent this entire time dissecting what goes on the surface of the face. But the final tier targets the systemic issues beneath the skin. Things like bruising, edema, and swelling.
This is where the line between topical cosmetics and vascular medicine really begins to blur.
The first product is Hanmi Pro Calm Red X Cream, enriched with vitamin K3 in Arnica montana. The documentation positions this specifically for severe redness and heavy bruising, particularly the kind of deep purple bruising you get after injectable fillers or cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. A bruise is just blood that has leaked out of a vessel and is trapped under the skin. How can rubbing a cream on top of my face make trapped blood disappear faster than natural time?
It's all about reinforcing the capillary networks. Capillaries are the microscopic, fragile blood vessels running just beneath the epidermis. When a needle pierces the skin, or you suffer an impact, those delicate walls rupture and blood leaks into the surrounding tissue. Vitamin K plays an essential, non-negotiable role in the body's biological blood clotting cascade.
So applying a synthesized vitamin K3 topically absorbs down to those vessels.
Exactly, and it actively fortifies the weakened capillary walls. By strengthening the structural integrity of the vessels, it stops further microbleeding and accelerates the localized reabsorption of the pooled blood.
Wow.
You are providing the exact nutrient the vascular system needs to clean up the spill faster.
We are literally patching the plumbing underneath the floorboards. But the absolute showstopper in the sources is the D1 NuVein solution, because it's not a cream, it's not an ointment, and it's not a serum. It is a highly concentrated 3,500 milligram troxyrutin ampoule that you drink.
An oral systemic solution for a cosmetic symptom.
Yeah. The sources indicate this is a game changer for people who work in retail or nursing. Anyone who stands or sits in one position for long hours and suffers from incredibly heavy, swollen legs and severe morning puffiness. But again, how does drinking a tiny vial of liquid fix swollen calves?
It comes down to venous pooling. Troxarutin is a highly potent flavonoid. It's a plant-derived compound that directly impacts the circulatory system.
Okay.
When you stand for hours on end, gravity becomes your enemy. Blood and lymphatic fluid pool in the lower extremities. The veins in your legs stretch out, they lose their elasticity, and they really struggle to pump that heavy fluid back up toward your heart against gravity.
So the fluid begins to leak through the stretched veins into the surrounding tissue, which is why your legs feel puffy, tight, and exhausted.
Exactly. But when you ingest the Troxarutin ampoule, it works systemically throughout your entire vascular network to improve the elasticity and tone of the vein walls themselves.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. By tightening up the venous structure from the inside, it prevents that fluid from leaking into the tissues. That drastically reduces the edema, the heaviness, and the morning puffiness.
So bringing this all together for you listening, effective skincare is not about blindly buying whatever dropper bottle is going viral on social media. It is about diagnosing the biological reality of your specific problem and deploying the exact chemical mechanism to solve it.
It's about knowing your ingredients.
Exactly. We started by rebuilding the lipid mortar with D-panthenol. We separated our acne, using oil-soluble BHA to melt the traffic jams, and ibuprofen to smother the deep bacterial fires. We bypassed antibiotics entirely by using epidermal growth factors and salmon DNA scaffolding to reconstruct traumatized tissue.
Yep.
We unplugged the melanin printer with targeted hydroquinone. We snapped our sagging pores back into place with retinol. And finally, we fortified our capillaries and veins with vitamin K and drinkable Troxarutin.
It is precision biology at its finest. You don't need 100 products, you just need the right mechanism.
But looking at this incredibly advanced toolkit, it leaves you with a fascinating question. We are already using EGF to send cellular text messages instructing the skin to heal faster. We are using salmon DNA to provide the exact base pair scaffolding for tissue regeneration.
Right.
If we can manipulate cellular behavior this deeply with topical creams today, how far away are we from personalized topical gene therapies? Like, are we approaching a future where a cream doesn't just repair a broken lipid barrier, but actively rewrites your skin's genetic predisposition to inflammation, ensuring the barrier never breaks down in the first place?
It's a profound thought. I mean, moving from reactive repair to genetic prevention, the technology might be a lot closer than we think.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you find yourself standing in that overwhelmingly complex skincare aisle, staring at a wall of glass bottles, we hope you look at the shelves with newly educated eyes. You don't have to be overwhelmed. You just have to know what biological question your skin is asking, and now you know exactly how to answer it.